Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mastering Dungeons, your favorite tabletop podcast about role-playing games and game design and uh, funky stuff, I guess. I'm Shawn here with the funkiest of the funky, Teos Abadia.
And I'm
What haps?
super empowered. I didn't go to PAX
Ooh,
Unplugged, but PAX came to me or something. They sent me the
yeah.
can't even like fit it in the frame properly, but yeah, I got my alien rewards, which look
Ooh,
amazing. The new Alien Evolved. And if that weren't enough and I needed more to curl up with at night, I have 13th Age is in
wow.
the house, and I'm super excited to just pour through both of these games. It's just incredible.
That's a good weekend. I couldn't go to PAX either, but I did play the new D&D Horrified game.
Oh, how was that?
And it was
This
fun.
is
It was fun.
a
We
board
only
game?
Yeah, you know the Horrified games?
No, I don't. I've seen mention of them.
Okay. Well, the first one was Horrified with the old Hammer horror staples of Frankenstein, werewolf, creature from the Black Lagoon, etc. It's a board game where you move around and you try to defeat monsters.
Okay, cool.
Then they made one for Greek monsters. So
Mythos, yeah, okay.
Hydra,
Mhm.
Medusa, etc. And then there was a D&D version. And we talked about it on the show that they
That's
were
where I remember
making
this
it.
from. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so Peter Lee was hired apparently to D&Dify the Horrified game.
Love
And
it.
I've been waiting to play it. It came out a while ago, but I played it and it was good. If you've played the other Horrified games, very similar, obviously, in terms of
Mhm.
gameplay. They added a D20, of course, to the
Mhm.
game to add a little randomness and some extra fun to it. And I was like, how's this going to work with a D20? It was amazing. Is it more swingy? Probably.
Mhm.
But like one of our characters crit at a very opportune time. And we were like, yeah, so it definitely added that D&D D20 fun to the
Yeah.
typical Horrified game setup.
Okay. Sweet. Love it.
And but we've got a lot to talk about today. So let's jump right into our listener corner here where we're going to answer some emails or comments or questions from our listeners, starting with AM Rosa 10 via YouTube. So here's the question for the Forgotten Realms as a TV series. What is the Forgotten Realms version of Andor?
Mhm.
What is the Forgotten Realms version of The Office? And how do you make a show that doesn't try to be both? If the showrunners go for the serious dramatic narrative, do they simply end up with Game of Thrones but with high magic?
Mm.
So I'm going to start by saying I know nothing about producing television shows or
Mhm.
streaming content like that.
Mm.
I have as much credibility right now as if you'd asked me. I have this question about brain surgery, and but this is the internet, and podcasting and streaming shows seem to be mostly about people with no clue who pontificate as if they're experts. So let's do this, Teos. Let's do
Let's
this.
do it.
So you know that what I'm going to say about the Office version of the Forgotten Realms, right?
Yeah. Done.
Yeah, you know it's Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yeah.
Full stop. It's already done. Don't bother. Uh,
Mhm.
I haven't seen Andor yet, but I have a
And
feeling
can I
that
just pause? Because
yeah.
if you've watched live plays of Acq Inc, there are moments where somebody says something like, yeah, when I got my bonus, and another person goes, you get a bonus?
Mhm.
Or how do I become an employee? I keep being, a contractor. Those kinds of discussions are so office like, right? It's just perfect.
Yeah, yeah, perfectly done. I haven't watched the second season of Andor, but the first season of Andor was amazing, obviously. And I think they would be like this good place for there is this evil stuff going on. There are people fighting against it, and all the tension and drama that goes along with that. Uh, but the real thing for me, Teos, and interrupt me at any point,
Mm.
is you need to set a baseline first because nobody's going to flick on their TV, their stream, and watch a silly fantasy show that is deemed Forgotten Realms.
Mhm.
Nobody is going to flick on their show and look at this super serious, super dramatic, super politically charged
Mm.
show that's called Forgotten Realms. You need the baseline. You can't have Andor without all of the Star Wars movies that came before. You can't have Skeleton Crew, right? The sort of kids version without having that first. So the trick isn't what how do we do Andor and The Office? It's how do we do the Forgotten Realms baseline? And that's where this question really, for me, hits home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest part. I mean, when you think of the Andor version, there are so many. And if you look at like the Cloak and Dagger source book, right, and all the different factions that are out there, that would be super interesting, right? If you had different factions for somebody who's deep in Thay trying to undo what Thay is doing, but the factions are in their way, that captures the feel of Andor because Andor examines revolution and rebellion from all of the different angles, right? What it means to be the problematic rebel, right? The super combative rebel, like all the types, right? And it looks at all those issues, and so you could bring in those factions to do something like that.
Yeah.
The baseline is harder, but I think the D&D movie shows that it can be done, right? I mean, the baseline of D&D is pretty much like the D&D movie. There are these Forgotten Realms elements, but in general, you're just telling the story of the characters and what they collide against, and there are some laughs. It's not completely absurd, but it is that sort of cinematic, fun fantasy. And I'd say that's a pretty good default for the Forgotten Realms as opposed to Greyhawk or other, settings.
It isn't completely farcical
Mm-hmm.
to you and I, and to even maybe a large portion of D&D players, but it definitely is to some. It definitely is to some, and that's where D&D and that's where the Forgotten Realms are
Mm-hmm.
going to run into brick walls over and over again. It's because when Star Wars was created, there wasn't anything
Sure.
except Star Wars.
Yeah.
When the Forgotten Realms is going to be created, whatever show they do and however they choose to do it, it's going to run up against the history of the game,
Sure.
the history of the setting, but worse than that, it's going to run up against all the home games over the 50 years that this game has been being played of people making their own stuff and then holding that up against something someone else has made and saying, let me compare what you are doing to this thing that I and my friends have done in our own imaginations and that we really love.
I,
And so
mm,
you're starting instead of starting at zero, you're starting at minus 20, and you've
sure.
got to dig your way out because
Yeah.
of that history.
Yes, for those kinds of for actual gamers that are gaming, but the
Right.
vast demographic you're trying to reach is the other world. There are more non-gamers than there are gamers, and that's where Skeleton Crew or they don't necessarily have to please the hardcore. Well, they should please the audience. What is the audience? Everybody, right? That's the way Disney sees it. It's not just
Yeah.
the Star Wars fans. And that's why you do actually hear Star Wars fans complain a fair bit. But what
Right.
makes a series good or bad is, can you identify with Andor, right? Are you mesmerized by the story of what the characters in there are going through, what the personalities are dealing with? And similarly with Skeleton Crew, right? And you can see parallel between both Skeleton Crew and the D&D movie have
Right.
pieces about being a parent
Mhm.
that really register, right? Or having
Right.
been a kid in a different era that really registers with your audience. And it's that kind of writing, that good storytelling that I think that wins the day.
I cannot agree with you more, and then I cannot agree with you less. So
Love it.
is good storytelling important? Absolutely. It can a good story trump everything I'm talking about? Probably not, right? Because again, we're talking about Star Wars with all of the media, all of the comic books, all of the video games over the years, getting an audience of, let's say, 100 million people, 100 million fans.
Yeah.
Now you can make something that doesn't please everyone, and you still have 10 million fans,
Sure.
even if 10%. With D&D,
Yeah.
you're starting with an audience of 10 million, maybe,
Maybe.
maybe. And so when you make something that doesn't please everyone, now you're going from 10 million, if you get
Yeah.
10%, down to one, which is a failure.
Yeah, I guess. But and
Plus,
do you feel the way for
the
the movie? Like, did the movie fail to please that starting audience?
I think that the reason we already don't have a D&D 2
Mm-hmm.
is because it didn't it didn't capture non-gamers.
Mm. But it did really well on streaming.
It did fine on streaming,
It beat out
but
movies that are considered to be massive
that's
successes.
streaming. I mean,
Yeah,
that's streaming. That's not that doesn't get the money that lets you make the next one.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and
I don't know. I
I'm
thought
not. I
I would
agree
say.
with you. I agree with you
Hmm.
with the creative side of it. I
Hmm.
think the business side is
Yeah. Well.
just such a
Yeah.
it's such a minefield.
Yeah. Well, there I agree with you 100%.
Right.
We may see kind of some of the outer details, but the core is true. That is a minefield of a place. It's almost as bad as video games, or no, equally bad. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's a great question. We could talk about this forever, but we have another question from Chris G8989 via YouTube. If your next 5e campaign was going to be themed around the entire party being the same class, but different subclasses, what class do you think would be the most fun to have the entire party play? And as the DM, what class do you think would present the biggest pitfalls for creating a fun campaign? Example, all barbarians having limited abilities outside of smashing things. I've lived this
Yeah, you know this
uh,
well.
several times over. I have a group who has done this with barbarians. We've done it with bards, not bards, monks. We've done it with wizards. Uh, the horde was the party of half orc, half brother barbarians. And while yes, they did have limited abilities in terms of only smashing things, it turns out that D&D is a great deal about smashing things repeatedly and viciously. Uh, I thought, okay, I'm going to get them with intelligence, charisma, saving throws, right? It turns out that when the characters have advantage on initiative and an increased speed, spellcasters might not have the easiest time getting that spell off in the first place. There were so many times, and then you get magic items, you get these things that boost your. By the time they reached high levels, it didn't really matter. Uh, so you could you make adventures that would challenge them? Sure. But if you just
Mhm.
took a random adventure off the shelf there. So what you have to look at, and I think what this question asks is what are some of the potential problematic things? The problematic thing isn't not being hard enough. The problematic thing is the characters are going to be powerful no matter what. They're all good at something, and if they spam that one thing they're good at, you generally don't have a chance as a game master.
Yeah, and it's surprising how flexible classes are in fifth edition, particularly.
Yep.
Um, though I've done all class parties in 4e and 3 and so on, but like I've done an all warlock in 5e, and you think you might have one image of a warlock, but you can make an entirely different warlock. It can be a healing
Mhm.
warlock. It can be a tanky warlock. It can be a warlock that punishes people for attacking them and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Let alone if you dip into some multi-classing, then everything can be there. I think that often those kinds of concepts, they do have some weaknesses in certain situations, but you are
Yeah.
strong enough in the others to overall pull across. And I haven't found it to be, if anything, it ends up being stronger because the party so knows what it's doing
Yep.
that they are really hitting that button, the win button, when they want to. And so but it's also fun. I mean, you've talked about your group, just the brothers chucking each other out a door until they break it down, or things like that, setting off the trap by just running into it, just absorbing it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's amazing how that can work, but it does.
Yeah. It can be super fun. It just you would not believe how 1d4 plus 1 adds up when there are five characters casting magic missile all at once and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, they're
yeah,
they're in trouble now. Wait, you just did 45 points of damage in one round at first level."
with
That's
100% accuracy. Yep.
with
Hmm.
100 right. You can't miss. We know what's coming. Uh yeah, that can leave a mark. So Give it a try. Let us know how it works. You can have
Yeah.
some super fun times with it. Oh, we got so much news to get into. So much news. We're going to jump right in here with our news and commentary section, starting with Lorwyn First Light has been released on D&D Beyond. This is a digital-only product that joins the recent digital-only Asterian's Book of Hungers and Netherill's Fall.
I'm holding the
The
cover up,
price.
Sean.
Oh, you're lifting the
It's
cover, but it's
invisible,
all
just my
digital,
hands holding
so
nothing.
you can't see it. Well, use your magic, find it on D&D Beyond, take a screenshot and put it up. The pricing on these is going to be $15, as
Yeah,
we
it's
have
interesting.
seen.
All 3
Yep.
digital books currently $15. That's the price point.
Yep. Lorwyn is a setting book with character options. It was going to be a Domain of Delight in the preview, but now that page has been updated to remove the reference. So this is what we get. The land of Lorwyn teems with colorful creeks, bright meadows, verdant forests, and gentle hills. In its midst, denizens build cozy villages on endless summer days. Conversely, the land of Shadowmoor is steeped in foggy moors, jagged cliffs, treacherous bogs, and skeletal forests. Here, creatures cling to life with an oppressive gloom. The magic of each land also influences its inhabitants, imparting aspects either playful or grim to creatures' appearances, personalities, and even memories. Those who hail from the realm of Lorwyn Shadowmoor traverse it only at their own peril, risking the collapse of their own selves when they enter the opposing land. So it's that Shadowfell,
Feywild.
Feywild dichotomy.
Yeah,
Anything
interesting.
else?
Chapter 1 is tools for creating a character that comes from either of these places: 2 backgrounds, 2 feats, 2 species. Instructions on how to play other species. Chapter 2 presents a gazetteer of locations in Lorwyn and Shadowmoor, along with adventure seeds tied to these places. Chapter 3 presents stat blocks for several creatures, 8 of them found in the realm of Lorwyn and Shadowmoor, and instructions on using other types of existing creatures. And then Chapter 4 is a map and adventures set in Lorwyn's Burrenton, a village established by the halfling-like Kithkin. And this comes with 2 ready-to-run sample adventures, similar to the ones you see in the Adventures in Faerun book, which I'm holding up, that has that kind of short adventure format. To which I say, this is all fine and good. I looked over it, and looking over it makes me once again cry out into the night. Give me PDFs, especially when things are digital only. I want to be able to curl up with this thing, print it out and read it, or run it easily, reference it more easily than on D&D Beyond. I would like PDFs.
Mm-hmm. Dave Clark, a sharp-eyed listener here, says there's already a errata for the changeling. It now reads unpredictable movement. Whenever you roll initiative, you can immediately move up to half your speed, provided you don't have disadvantage on the initiative roll. It no longer references the dash option, which you would have to be able to take out of initiative order to do. See, Teos, if you had a PDF, it would be already
I'd have to
obsolete.
reprint
So
it.
that's right. So thank you, D&D Beyond, for saving Teos some
Oh
ink there.
gosh, thank you so much. Also came up future releases, right? So we're looking forward to December 9th, coming right up for the delayed Eberron book. There are pre-orders, and the local gaming stores will have that book as of this recording when you're listening to this. And they were on sale at PAX Unplugged, and I heard the sales were just great. Amazing off-the-shelves type selling of that book. But after that book, Shawn, nothing. There is no news on upcoming releases, no clear holiday product. And that's a sharp contrast to previous years. I know you recall, and listeners might recall, everything from a Marvel-styled announcement filmed in a Hollywood studio with, the graphics that show the reveal of everything that's coming down for the next year. D&D celebration events that announce the main storyline, like Witchlight with puzzles and interactive elements. Studio announcements with influencers playing and showcasing upcoming products. We had the Stream of Annihilation, and we had the Baldur's Gate Waterdeep event. All those, just kind of all these different big showy reveals. And So, what does this mean? Is this a sign of production issues and everything's just gotten mucked up and they've got to clear that out first? Is it that they are deliberately switching to a slower pace of releases, which I would actually be all for? Are they preparing for some kind of major change? I don't know. It was surprisingly quiet.
Mhm.
There's
And I
something
don't have anything to. Oh,
to say.
go
What are you
ahead.
gonna say?
I said I have nothing to add to that, so you continue.
Well, there is some contrast to this with our next story.
This is true because Daggerheart at PAX Unplugged announced a lot of things. Most importantly, they announced their new rules expansion, a 2026 summer release called Hope and Fear from Darrington Press. The new book will include one new domain called Dread, as well as new classes that have already been part of the Void playtest. These are include the Witch, the Warlock, the Brawler, and the Assassin. They also said there will be 6 new communities, 6 new ancestries, over 100 new gear options, and a transformation mechanic that will allow you to play things like werewolves, demigods, or vampires. If you want to do that for 5e, go get the Grim Hollow stuff where all those transformations are. But the core also included our 4 new campaign frames, more than 130 new adversaries and environments among that.
Hmm.
What did we hear, Teos, about all of this
Yeah.
from PAX?
So it was neat. I watched the reveal. It was a big deal. They're coming on the stage and making splashy announcements, and it was a great tenor to it, like a really great event, right? Like where it feels personable, fun. You're enjoying watching these people talking. They're making it clear who's behind the product. They're making it feel like a small company. Like I think the first thing they said was it's been 180. I don't remember how many days, 186 or something since Daggerheart was birthed. Very kind of familial feel with it, very approachable. When it came to campaign frames, so Chris and Jeremy have worked on Reign of the Were-Dragon. This is a dark fairy tale showing how expansive Daggerheart can be. Another is designed to invest players in the world, helping them design it. So part of the core is you get to decide like who the queen is like, and this was inspired by the For the Queen RPG. Journey to Horizon, which is the name of that campaign frame, is a classic fantasy that is deliberately higher complexity compared to their other classic fantasy that's in the book. It has a travel journey approach, teaching you how to hex crawl in Daggerheart, so you get that kind of West Marches touch point. And they took that OSR inspiration and added to it to create a new approach for Daggerheart. Characters are emerging from a sanctuary after 1,000 years of being inside and exploring the changed world using an old map, right, from the before times. And then we have Dark Heart of Andaloria, gothic horror, Van Helsing style, monster hunting styled Constantine. And this uses those new transformations. Castle High, the complete contrast, is what they called Sticker Punk and Hope Punk, designed with the creators of Slug Blasters. It's a boarding school in floating castles, cozy and fun, put stickers on your shields, enchanted sneakers, stuff like that. And they later did an actual play using that campaign frame. Crawford mentions that each of the 4 campaign frames has elements deliberately created so you can pull that out. So even if you're not playing the campaign frame, but you want to use this hex exploration, you can pull that into what you want. The game will have a standard version, including a rip pad of blank adversary sheets and the new Dread domain deck and other cards. That's a surprisingly, shockingly, I would say, low $40 for cards plus book. Then the deluxe version ratchets up to 120, comes in a box, has fear tokens that slip into the provided DM screen, sort of like a sliding along like an abacus, a set of dice, and a set of 10 d12s for players. Both of them include the PDF, which you will get 2 weeks in advance of shipping, or print release date, and you can pre-order that now.
The link in our show notes for that pre-order for you. Also at PAX Unplugged, the Darrington Press team was in full effect. They were revealing art for the new book, announcing lots of information. They'll have packs available in local game stores starting this summer. Daggerheart will be part of the free RPG day coming up. This includes the Sablewood Starter Adventure, continuing that story. And Spencer Stark said, this is Dying Spire which was previously used at Gen Con. So it sounds like it will be made available after Free RPG Day online. There are rules around Free RPG Day that generally companies have to be very strict. They can't release something that was already played and can't release something until long after Free RPG Day is over. Now, maybe celebrities get to break that rule. I don't know, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it has to be like a
Uh,
limited release or something like that. So
yeah,
maybe this is limited enough or something. Hmm.
right. Pre-gens have been redone with new art and adjusted features. Elise Resendez said that if there are over 1,800 stores, every single store gets a 12-pack of adventures, and every single pack seats 6 players. So over 90,000 players can get a taste of Daggerheart at that event. There's going to be new Daggerheart actual plays launching in the next few months. They mentioned various actual plays, uh, either announced or recently played by other groups. Darrington Press is in talks with several VTTs and will announce plans soon. It's already available via Roll20 and Demiplane. And then there are fan conversions available for Foundry and Fantasy Grounds. They mentioned the Dungeons of Drakkenheim Kickstarter and Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
The DM screen with D12s will have slots in them, as Teos said, to work like an abacus. There will be a dice tome of rolling, a soft leather case that can hold your character cards and your dice. And they also made a specific mention that Hope and Fear, the new book, is not what Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford are writing, nor is it anything that Jen Ellis and Keith Baker of Together Studios are writing. So lots and lots going on, which makes sense
Mm-hmm.
because, and I say this out of all due respect, we don't know how good this game will play in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, you want to get everything out as fast as you can.
Yeah.
To give people things to play is just
Yeah.
smart.
Critical. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in case play slows down, you don't want that cadence to slow down.
Yeah, and everybody, it's tough. Like you talking and hearing to people in this space that are pretty hardcore gamers, right? They'll say things like, "Well, I like some of the classes, but I wish I liked more of them." Oh, well, here come more classes. I needed
Right.
new adventures. Okay, well, there'll be one at Free RPG Day, and then
Yep.
clearly Chris and Jeremy are working on additional ones, and so that's coming and trying to get that engine of support up for a game that clearly has become more popular than the company initially foresaw, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Along these same lines, we got news that Acquisitions Incorporated is going to be switching to use Daggerheart rules.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Or did switch.
yeah, has already
Yeah,
switched.
because this happened. They did in fact play. Mm-hmm.
Carrot, take it away, Teos.
All right. Yeah, I did watch this. It was a lot of fun. So they made this announcement right before PAX Unplugged with all new character art, and Matt Mercer joined the cast. They had new Daggerheart characters with some fun changes, like Mike Krahulik's Jim Darkmagic is now a ribbit, so the frog species, right? Frog ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
Really hilarious to see him, use his tongue attack, and you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And they in this new campaign, because in the last campaign playing D&D at PAX West, they undid reality. They plunged a dagger into a heart and undid all of reality. And Jeremy kept making sly comments about, your character will be reborn in the best way possible, which I thought was very funny. And so here they were now in the Daggerheart world, and it was like a reset. They weren't kind of available. They weren't super aware of what they'd left, but knew that somehow this world is bizarre and different. And they, in fact, digging under their franchise, found that there are strange ley lines of mystical power that are intersecting, and they are sort of tied to different gods and unusual gods for this kind of purpose. So that was part of the mystery that they're trying to figure out in this campaign. This actual play was on the Darrington or on the Critical Role channel, right? Which is interesting, in addition to being on the PAX Twitch. So if you want to see it now, you can go to PAX Twitch channels and see it. But if you want to watch it on YouTube, it's now part of that whole Critical Role network and how they distribute things. And so it'll come out. I don't know how soon, but it's some delay before it comes out in non-pay format if you miss it live. And it was just interesting to see this and realize, like, wow, D&D doesn't now have a sort of direct link to a well-known actual play.
Except Critical Role.
Well, yes, but there aren't any staff there, and it is a Critical Role project. And everything that sort of has a big name attached to it, and audiences and live shows and so on, obviously other companies are doing the thing, but there isn't this direct link, right? And
Gotcha.
we've maybe taken for granted having Chris Perkins on Acq Inc. and then having, Jeremy, but I don't know. It's interesting. Again, runaway sales of the D&D books at PAX. So it's not like it's necessarily hurting them immediately, but it's an interesting thing that we're at a point really that we haven't had in a long, long time of no direct involvement on a show that is a prominent show.
Yep. Podcaster Ben Riggs has shared some more data about D&D sales that has leaked. The material was shared when he presented a seminar at Gamehole Con this year, but he expanded upon it recently. So the first slide shows that in 2013, D&D sales totaled $15.5 million. So before 5e, 15.5 million. A quarter of that, just over a quarter of that, was directly from role-playing game sales. 21% of that, or 22%, was from D&D Insider. 20% came from novels, 16% came from e-novels, 15.5% from board games, and 0.1% came from miniatures. Any thoughts on that, Teos?
Oh, many, many. And when I listened to this, because I listened to it in podcast form, and then I had to go to the video and click to see the charts and write down those numbers and process them. I wish Ben sprang this on two Evil Hat members, Cam Banks and Fred Hicks. And both of those guys, particularly Fred, are super smart at math. And so I wish he had not surprised them with it, but rather shared that in advance so that they could have more intelligently commented. So they had to off the cuff react to this. And they're not D&D guys, right? That's not they don't make D&D products. And so they didn't quite grasp the time of this, right? And Ben called the data unsurprising. I actually think it's very surprising because this is the worst year you could pick in recent history for D&D sales, right? It is the year that there was absolutely no product for the current edition. The fourth edition was the current edition. There were no 4E releases at all that year. The only thing that D&D was selling was the gold-hued reprints of classic D&D adventures, which has a certain market to it, right? I mean, it's not your average bear. Yeah. And so it's actually very impressive that in a year of nothing new, they had 15 million. And so I thought that was really very impressive. And so looking at, and even on the role-playing game side, 4 million, and to me, it again speaks to the size of D&D, that a year of no releases brings you this kind of size is incredible. And the DDI is bringing in just shy of 3.4 million is really strong. We've talked about before how they probably had goals that were way, way higher than that were unrealistic, but that's amazing, right? Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I have no thoughts on that, except then Ben shared the 2019 sales data, which totaled 71.1 million. So we go from 15 to 71. So let's compare today. You compare to today, Teos.
Yeah. So the third quarter of 2025 likely had D&D sales of around 60 to 70 million for the quarter. So this is very similar to 2019 in just one quarter. So D&D has continued to grow, assuming our calculation is correct that we do for the show. But let's go back to 2019. You talked about those percentages, and it's 73.8% role-playing games. And I think that alone is a really important thing in looking at this data, that when suddenly all of your income has shifted to RPGs, it may make it look like other things went up or down, but it's so hard to track at that point because your percentages have dropped a lot, right? It's 0.4% DDI, which is kind of shocking. DDI in 2019 was still making over 300,000 in revenue for Wizards, which is nuts, right? what does that say? Does that speak to people who forget to cancel subscriptions? Does it speak to people still playing 4E? I don't know, but it's actually 0.4% is unbelievable. 1.3% e-novels, 1.5% novels. This is the time when they're not making novels, right? They're licensing them out. So this may be older sales or it's residuals or I don't know. 1.8% board games. They have no board game active lines. So that is actually, these are all really good, right? Really good news. 21% is labeled drive-through, and that is probably the DMs Guild. And this really represents probably the height of the DMs Guild. And then the 73.8% RPGs also probably represents the height of 5th edition, based on our other analysis we've done across the years on this show. And so novels have shrunk, even both as totals and percentages. Board game has done the same. DM's Guild launches in January 2016. So this is 3 years in. We're seeing 15 million in revenue. And that suggests that Roll20 is seeing, by the way, way more than that because they get a larger part of the royalty split. So it gives us a little insight into what Roll20 might be bringing home at the height of it. It has obviously decreased a lot since then. And for RPGs, 2013 had over 4 million, and now it's seeing 52 million in role-playing game revenue. And this is a capture of probably the height of 5e or very close to it. And the just before the pandemic, which strangely, though it caused an explosion in board games, all the data we're seeing suggests that D&D was going down a bit during the pandemic and didn't recover from that. So that is the point where 5e was going down. The revenue may also not include licenses or other sources of revenue, so it's hard to compare. D&D may actually be much higher. And one of the things Ben talked about is that he can't really use 2020 because 2020's sources that he was given included a bunch of projections on revenue rather than actualized revenue, including like the video game that came out that year. I want to call it Darkwalker, but that wasn't the name of it. Yeah. Whatever that game was that they re-released, and that game, did not do well and probably lost money. So he didn't share those numbers because at that point the data falls apart. And it's still fascinating, right? I mean, I love this kind of thing. It shows that enormous scale of D&D of being, 71 million in 2019 is just incredible.
That it is some food for thought there. We also got news that Fantasy Grounds has gone free and is now offering large bundles. So Smiteworks owns Fantasy Grounds, and it shifted from a subscription model to making Fantasy Grounds free. To make up for this, they are hoping to attract lots of players that offer packages by various companies. Adam Bradford, formerly of D&D Beyond and formerly of Demiplane, is now the Chief Development Officer at Smiteworks. And he said, by removing the software cost entirely, we're making it possible for someone to simply buy the box set module and start playing for around $20 to $30 instead. So we now see new starter sets providing bundles by companies like Modifius for Fallout, Dune, and Star Trek. Goodman Games is offering Mutant Crawl Classics, Dungeon Crawl Classics, and 5e Fantasy. Previously released bundles also exist for other games like Shadow of the Demon Lord, D&D Traveler, and more. And a new online reader has been released, allowing you to read material outside of the VTT that you purchased for the VTT. All of that you can learn about now on fantasygrounds.com.
Awesome.
We got some more news from Evil Hat as well.
Yeah, so on Bluesky, Fred Hicks shared what it would be like if Evil Hat adjusted their games prices for inflations. And you can actually go look at his spreadsheet. He shared it on, as a Google Doc spreadsheet. It's so Evil Hat. Love Fred Hicks. So he shows, Fate Core would be $35 in 2025, not the $25 that it was set at in 2013. Blades in the Dark would be $40 this year, not the $30 that it was priced at in 2017. Scum and Villainy, priced at $40, would be $52. Even Aegon jumps, which was released just in 2020, would jump from $25 to $31. And so he just points out that because we tend to put a sticker price on it, and that becomes the price forever, it means each product provides less profit over time because the prices on the sticker stay static, and we've had such incredible inflationary growth. re-releasing has the benefit of actually then letting you adjust the sticker price. So he points out that in 2023 they re-released Monster of the Week, and they could then use a price adjusted for today's games. And I had not really thought of it that way, right? Of this impact of inflation and having that hard sticker price is really interesting.
Yeah. Let's jump into our creator corner. We've got a few here, starting with Temple of the Lightbringers by MT Black. MT's latest Kickstarter is an epic 5e adventure where light and shadow battle beneath the ruined shrine. A 4 to 8 hour dungeon adventure for first through fourth level characters. You can go back it on Kickstarter right now. The project ends December 9th. And what else do we have here?
Ooh, our friend Steve Conley, who mixes great design with great art. I loved his past releases. He has Stabracadabra, a cursed fighter subclass for 5e. And this is such a brilliant hook. So the Bladeborn fighter subclass, you play the sentient sword, and the fighter is your minion. If your fighter dies, you just roll up a new one and keep going. Love it, love it, love it. And I know his art would just bring this out in such a great way. Also being unveiled is Death Save Devices, a collection of magic items which allow characters to trade 1, 2, or all 3 of their death saves for epic effects, worth risking death for. 50 magic items are included. This ends December 18th. Stabracadabra is what you can search for on Kickstarter. Project's doing really well, but it's for good reasons.
Yep. A project that you might have heard of called Draw Steel, Crack the Sun is now up on BackerKit for you to follow. You can follow it and make Teos a very, very happy lead game designer. The project will launch on December 9th, we believe.
I think that's
so you can
probably
go to
the day.
backerkit.com, search Crack the Sun. You can follow it, link in our show notes. In other quick news, MCDM has released a new second level adventure called Daggerheart of the Wood as a playtest on their Patreon. And last but not least, this is your final chance to back the Dungeons of Drakkenheim Daggerheart Kickstarter. Friday is the last day for you to back it, so get over there. You can get a campaign frame for free. Many, many pages that cover how to run Dungeons of Drakkenheim using Daggerheart. So you could just get the campaign frame and be good, but
Yeah.
I tell you, you're going to want the full adventure with all of the cards and all of the sites. So check that out.
That's the part that made me a backer easily, is the idea of these Daggerheart cards that are sort of like transformations, right? They change the state, and the cards reflect this corruption element. I'm like, ooh, that's the kind of thing you can use in any game and get awesome payoff.
Yep. And I said last but not least, but there is one more last, and definitely not least. Kickstarter United has prevailed. The Kickstarter Union, after 7 months and 42 days, did secure contractually these protections for pay equity and 4-day work weeks from Kickstarter. So if you want to read about what happened and what they were able to procure from Kickstarter, you can go to kickstarterunited.org.
Awesome.
That was our news and commentary this week.